Good morning and welcome to Morning Coffee with Brigid. I'm Brigid Burke and we are at the summer solstice. It is the 20th of June. Solstice comes in where I live at 4:50 in the afternoon. So happy solstice to everybody. I will be doing my own celebrations of solstice. I'm not sure if I'm going to fit them in today or tomorrow. Tonight I actually do have a live podcast that I am doing with Joanne Gajewski and Jim Sayers called Inside the Sacred Circle. I have details about that. I can actually put details about that here if people are interested. I have it more advertised on the Cattonia side of the house because Cattonia is where I talk more about the dark feminine and I talk about magic and witchcraft and stuff like that. Here, I tend to talk just more about my coaching practice, but being that I have, a lot of esoteric practices as part of my work, it is something that I can talk about there as well. And if people are interested in knowing about that side of me and what I do, then they might be interested in listening into that. Right now, there's a private invitation on Facebook Live. So right now, I don't think Jim has it as public. So I don't know. I'm going to try to post the invitation. Certainly, if you're on Facebook, if you follow the Transition Life Coaching page there, you will be able to see it. Otherwise, I will have it on the Cattonia page. And if people miss it, then I think it will actually also be at, I think they do post it on their YouTube channel, which is called Inside the Sacred Circle. Now, that particular, and I don't know how soon they will upload it. I don't think they do them. I think they edit them and then they put them up. But I will, so I'm just, and that was what I was going to say. The time, 8 p.m. So that particular video is going to be at 8 p.m. So, Eastern Standard Time. Now, if you're in the UK, that's 1 in the morning. You're probably going to want to listen to a recording of it, unless you're up that late. If you're in the USA, then yeah, it would be, and of course, if you're on the West Coast, that might actually be better for you because then it would be more like 5 p.m. For you. So with that said, I'm also taking my Rouhani healing class on Saturday. That one, that's, as I mentioned, I will not be here for the live stream because early morning, that is, I have to start the class at 5 a.m. Good morning, Melissa. I was just talking about the podcast I'm going to be on tonight, and I'm going to post information about that. That's also on Cattonia, which I think you also follow. So if people are interested in following that, that's 8 o'clock tonight, and happy summer solstice. So I'll be talking with Joanne and Jim tonight about some of my other more esoteric kind of practices that I do. They wanted to chat about that, so I'll be doing that. And then, I was just saying I'm taking my Rouhani celestial healing class on Saturday. That starts at 5 a.m. So I won't be doing this particular episode, Morning Coffee with Brigid, on Saturday. I'm super excited about the Rouhani, I'm not going to lie, because I just know that it's just a super potent thing. And I've talked about Rouhani in the past, so this is not this is not something new. I mean, I actually have one of these episodes where I've dedicated a lot of it to talking about Rouhani. If I have anything new to talk about on Sunday, then I will. I'm talking with Karina of, that's awesome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited because I just know, I think as I indicated, sometimes when I hear about some of the newer kind of like 5D kind of stuff, being a person who works very much in the earth sphere, sometimes I'm a little, that's awesome, the class. Oh yeah, I'm totally looking forward to this class. It's with the person, Neshla Avi is actually the second in line from the woman, I think her name's Carolyn Stacy, who actually founded the Rouhani technique. And the first person she passed it on to was Neshla Avi, who is in the UK. And actually it's something that it seems to be centered largely around UK and Ireland. I mean, I guess there's people in Europe that do it as well. I actually went and looked. I wanted to see how many people did Rouhani in the US or even in New Jersey. And if there is somebody who's Rouhani certified around Hillsborough, Princeton, around that area, I mean, I kind of, they're both along Route 206. I kind of put them, they're not necessarily right next to each other, but they're pretty close to each other. And that's not surprising because there's a lot of holistic practitioners in the Hillsborough area. So that's not I'm not surprised that somebody out there has taken this class, but that's the only two I could find in the state of New Jersey. And I'm sure that they're kind of sprinkled. The ones who actually are the teachers, I think there's only like 3 in the United States. So one's in North Carolina, one's in Michigan. Michigan is Jennifer Masters, who I worked with, who did a Rouhani session for me. And then I don't remember who the third one was, where they are. I don't quite remember. I'd have to look it up again. But yeah, it's going to be. So I'm hoping to be offering that at Riverside, what's now called Riverside Wellness Center, which is up in Milford. I was Riverside Treasures and Enchantments, and I think the store is still called that, but it's she's changed the name a little bit. And it is Riverside because it's right on the Delaware River in the town of Milford, New Jersey. It's a beautiful little store. She's usually open between Thursday and Sunday from 12 to 5, but and she has her own parking lot and everything as well. So yeah, so Karina, who owns that store, I'm going to be chatting with her on Friday. I already texted her about this, and I said, hey, when I after I'm taking this class, can I do Rouhani in person? Can we talk about that? And she said, oh yeah, let's talk. So yeah, so we'll see what goes with that. And when I have more information about that, I can share it. So yeah, so that's going to be a good thing that's coming up. Hope you're surviving the heat well. Actually, I was surprised. This morning I went out, and maybe I shouldn't be surprised. I expected things to be a lot more hazy, hot, and humid, but it seems like it's not quite as hazy as I would think it is. I kind of had the urge this morning to get up, and I have some ceramic bowls. When I used to work at FDU, we had somebody on staff who used to do ceramics, and he would give them out to everybody. He would be like, here, I made some bowls, I made some, mugs and things. And he of course, they were actually really nice. He would always be like, well, that's not right about it. You know how people are with their own art. But I have a few of these around, and so I was putting water in them, and I'm trying to putting them out for, the animals and so forth, because it's going to be a hot day today, and trying to put them in shadier spots so it doesn't, boil the water. It has gotten quite hot here, but I don't know, I feel. This morning I walked outside to do some stuff, and I was like, ooh, it's actually kind of nice out here right now. So anyway, this is all by the by. I was going to talk today a little bit about a topic that's come up recently. Now today, one of the astrological aspects that's affecting things is that of course, Neptune has been in Pisces for ages, just like Saturn has. Basically, there is... But this is all. This is kind of shifting into Gemini. What they said was there was going to be Saturn and Gemini kind of squaring Neptune and Pisces. Okay, in its way. So there's this. Is it Saturn or is it Mars? I can't remember. There's a square anyway. That a square aspect, from Gemini to the Neptunian aspect. That is that is basically okay. Neptune and Pisces energy makes us very diffuse. It can make us feel very ungrounded. Now, the positive side of it is it can make us feel, it can really fuel our imagination. It can allow us to dream big and think big. That's a good thing. We can consider possibilities that we haven't considered before. But with that kind of Saturnian influence and also the Gemini influence, because Gemini, of course, is very mind-oriented. It's Gemini's the twins. It's communication. It's speaking, writing, lecturing, the kind of stuff. I mean, all the kind of stuff that I like. Myself personally, in Vedic astrology, actually, I have Gemini as my ascendant. It's Cancer in the Western system. But if you have strong Mercury in your chart like that, you may be somebody who's more inclined to teaching, writing, or communicating in some kind of a way. In fact, my Mercury's in my 10th house, so it definitely has to do with kind of the work that I do is Mercury connected. But that is coming into odds with Neptune and Pisces today. And so that the topic that really came up for me with regard to that is the topic of trust. Because frequently what happens when you have this kind of realistic energy in a mental sign, in an air sign, and it's squaring off against something that is a little bit more intuitive and receptive and imaginative, then it almost becomes this clash of what's real and what's not real. Okay, it becomes this clash of what is it that I am going to what are my dreams actually something I can bring down to earth and manifest, or is it just pie in the sky? Is it that kind of thing? Like how do we bring our dreams down to the earth level? And See, the problem that we run into in this kind of energy is that we immediately, in the name of being realistic, we also kind of look at the way we do things, the same way that we've done things before. So the example I've been giving for a lot of people is, and again, this is just one example, there's many others, people who say want to pursue their dreams in terms of a job or a career, but then they say, oh, but I have to make sure, I have to worry about money, so I really do need that other job. That's the only way that I'm going to have enough money and to be able to do what I'm doing. Right? And I'm not saying, again, that's certainly not an illogical way of thinking. There's a lot of people who do that. That's what they have to do. And for some people, it's the right thing to do. I mean, not saying, oh, that's a right or wrong thing. But it is one of those things that when people feel, let's just say in their heart, when they feel, because there's a lot about the heart space right now. One of the things that I've noticed is that there's a whole bit of opening of the heart space for a lot of people, and allowing people open, to get out of this, in order to break out of this alienated space that a lot of us are in, just collectively, okay, collectively, where we feel like we're in our bubbles and maybe we don't understand or can't talk to people who have differing views from us or are or where everything has to be where if you don't agree with my point of views, there's battle lines drawn. I mean, there's a lot of that goes on in a lot of different arenas. And so the question then becomes, okay, how do you open yourself up to be vulnerable, to be able to reach out to people? How do you, because if we don't do that, I mean, we can't all walk around pretending that, like these individual ocean waves that don't work together. I mean, you can't pretend that's, well, I mean, I guess you can pretend that's what's going on, but it's not very helpful to you, and it's not very helpful to the whole collective vibe, I guess you could say. It's not helpful to the planet as a whole, especially if we're talking about human survival. There's definitely this push towards moving towards the heart and away from the head. Okay, that's where a lot of that work is. And one of the things that's required in this kind of a modicum, which is something we don't tend to develop, is trust. Okay? Trust is the big word that came into my mind today, because I will get to a point when I have that, I'll start be looking at things and I'll start trying to plan ahead. And really what I keep getting with that is, because a lot of times I'll look at it and I'll say, well, this is what I have to make up by the end of the month. Am I going to be able to do it? Things like that, just by way of example. And your mind immediately says like, oh, okay, go out and get some kind of a job or do something. And I keep getting like, no, don't do that. Like, absolutely don't do that. And good morning, Leila. So I feel like, no, that, at least for me, that's not what I want to do. So then the question then becomes, when that Saturn influence comes in against the Neptune influence, when we have this kind of dreamy, imaginative energy against the realistic energy, then the question becomes, okay, well, if we're not supposed to do things the old way, okay, then how do we make the new way work? Okay, how do we make the new way work? And so the question then becomes, if I'm going to make the new way work, that means I have to do something, I have to think about it differently. I have to do something different. I have to take action in a different way. If I'm going to make something work that is not part of the standard traditional model. But I think what Saturn challenges us to do is to say, okay, well, then you need to figure out what that way is. Like, you want to use that mental Gemini energy in a way that says, okay, I've got to think about something in a new way. And that's hard, because especially when you're, when you're kind of digging ground and building the foundation for something, and you don't have the, you're not in a space where you really know what the heck you're doing. I guess is what it comes down to. A lot of times we're flying by the seat of our pants because we just don't just wake up every day and you're like, all right, let's see what sticks today, right? And it can be a little bit like that. And we don't like to live in that kind of uncertainty. A lot of times we're like, no, I need to know exactly what I'm doing and what the plan is. And it's very challenging for those of us, especially those of us who are earth signs, who are just like, okay, I'm trying not to work with a plan. But therefore, a huge component of what you're doing is trust. Now, how do you build trust? That's really what we're talking about here. How do you build trust? Because a lot of times, the way that we're taught to build trust is through validation. Okay, so for example, when you're doing, I think I've mentioned this, when you take a psychic development course, frequently the way that you learn to trust your psychic faculties or intuitive faculties, clairsenses and things like that, is to be able to be in a milieu where you can practice. Let's just say you have a person you're practicing with, or you have, targets that you're practicing with, or some, depending on what it is you're trying to figure out. I remember taking a class where there was like remote viewing. So the instructor was looking at a picture and said to everybody, okay, I want you to go, pause this video, go like write your impressions of what you see. Like I'm looking at a picture of a room, tell me what's in the room. And then you would look at your notes and compare it to what the instructor said. And then you would see how many hits you got. And she even said, she says, if you don't get a whole lot of hits, like, don't worry about it. Like, don't feel like, oh, that's it. See, I don't have any ability. That's what a lot of times we do. We don't get it right the first time, so we assume that we're no good at it. So, and the thing is, it's just you're learning, or you're just still opening up. If you're just opening up, it's not going to be the same as if you're really open and in the flow. You may still be, it's like you're not totally in the river yet. Your toe is just in the water. You're just kind of moving your way in. And so, so you never should beat yourself up about where you are. If you, again, that's vulnerability, open to saying, okay, I didn't get it right this time, but maybe I'll get it right next time, or maybe 10 times from now, but eventually, if I'm persistent, I'll get it right. And so there is that method of validation that we can have. But a lot of times I feel, the only thing about that method is that I feel like then it's trying to satisfy the intellect. That because the intellect is based on the idea that we have cause and effect. Okay, that every cause has an effect. I mean, and yes, we can talk about karma and that actions have consequences, right? So there is that idea. But it's almost like it has to. We have to prove through almost like a statistical probability that out of I followed my instincts 10 times and 8 times I was right. Well, that would be a really good number, actually. I hit it right on the head. So therefore, that means I can. If that's kind of your regular thing, then you feel like, okay, I can trust my intuition. But again, that's a very mathematical and analytical way of looking at it. What I'm finding is that, because then what will happen is, if let's just say your intuition's on point and you feel like you're just kind of knowing things and you're like, oh, wow, like my intuition now. But then as soon as you start to kind of really over-focus your mind on it, you may be your mind wants to get into the action, and it wants to interpret, and it wants to over-interpret what's going on. And we may look at certain things, we may see certain signs or have certain synchronicities or certain dreams or certain things that we are being given information that's not coming from the direct source, like somebody sitting down or just telling you, okay, here's the rules, this is the way it is. And sometimes we don't get it quite right. We see signs and we don't interpret them in quote unquote the right way. Like what we thought that sign meant is not what it meant. And then we can start to say, oh, well, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I can't trust my intuition, maybe that's what we do. And part of the reason our culture doesn't really want to connect to intuition so much is because intuition is more poetic than prosaic, okay? It comes more in images and words that are more cryptic rather than in just direct declarative sentences. And you notice as a culture that that's what we prefer. We want direct speech, we want clear speech, we want action words, none of this passive stuff. Because again, that's the very masculine undercurrent of the culture. When I hear people try to say, oh, well, I don't know about, patriarchal kind of stuff. I'm like, well, that's kind of what it is, because it's saying that the standard for truth and the standard for validation is this direct, clear, evidential kind of thing. And, I'll believe it when I see it kind of thing. And while the value of that is understood, and we oftentimes feel that these certain predictive models that we have, like through scientific method and so forth, that these are more reliable than intuition, because intuition acts in a very uncertain kind of a manner, we try to say, well, that's the only standard that I'm going to have for truth. And it's not that you can't get truth from that model, but the truth you're going to get is limited. The truth you're going to get is more mechanistic. It's not going to tell you. You can observe things, but it's not necessarily going to tell you about what's going on. So what I often advise people who kind of get into that, where the mind wants to kind of step in and take over this show, is that as you get impressions and things, it's just a good thing to record them. However you record them. I've talked about that with dream journaling. It doesn't just have to be dream journaling. It can just be if you have an impression. And if you don't have time to sit down and write stuff down, if you have a voice recorder on your phone, just record it really quick and then go back and listen to your voice notes and see, and maybe make notes when you have time. And think about, and then, don't try to assume what they mean right away. If you get a thing, like if I look outside and see an omen, like if I have 3 crows sitting outside my window, squawking in my window, I'm like, okay, I know that means something. But I may just make a note of it and not try to interpret that right away. Oftentimes it's we may have a feeling about what it means. And you should pay attention to that too. Because sometimes you have an instinct, but then we like to second guess our instinct. We think, oh, well, no, that couldn't be what it is. So just go with what your impressions are, like immediately off the bat. And then later on, if you want your validation, I will sometimes go back over journals like that, like a month later, and I will look it over and I will go, oh, wow, I look at how much of this stuff. But then you start to understand the language that's being spoken to you. It's like a language you have to learn. And it's not something that comes naturally to us. I'll give you your Alan Wattsism of the day. In the book Wisdom of Insecurity, he talks about this, and I've heard he mentions it obviously in certain lectures as well, where he says, when you're born, he says, when a child comes into the world, you should be able to say to that child, welcome, it's wonderful to have you here. Welcome to life, and enjoy it and be in it. He's instead, basically what happens instead is it's just like, right, okay, well, you're here now and you're on probation. It's kind of the way he had put it. You're on probation. We're going to teach you the right way to think about things, and don't ever trust your own instinct on anything. If you do, we are continually, whether it be the side effect of a religious mythology that says that we're sinful, shameful, or imperfect, or whether it's whether it's on the other side of things where we're told that our perceptions are faulty, and that we have to learn strict rules of like logic and so forth, and calculation and experimentation and method in order to really understand what truth is. Otherwise, the stuff that comes to us, that's just nonsense. That's just delusion. That's just, that doesn't mean anything. That's just nobody. Of course, it's funny. I was watching a video on consciousness the other day because they were talking about consciousness. What was the topic? There was a study that was done on they were trying to figure out what consciousness was, and weirdly, it was something that came out of anesthesiology. It was the idea that tryptophan, I think it is a protein. They're thinking that tryptophan might actually be the vehicle for consciousness in the human nervous system, and that rather than thinking about neural connections, that this may actually work in an entirely different way. And it was an anesthesiologist who figured it out because as the guy explaining this, I might be able to post a link to the video. He was explaining, he says, you might say, well, what does anesthesiology have to do with consciousness? It's like, well, they work actually in making people not conscious, right? I mean, when you go in for surgery, your anesthesiologist, whatever they're giving you is your consciousness, you're out. And then, everything is out. And then when you wake up again, you don't have any memory of what's happened to you under the knife. And so but they talk about why certain anesthesia, right? Yeah. Why certain drugs actually work, and what makes you lose consciousness. So almost by looking at consciousness from the other end of where your consciousness, your awareness is taken away, and how that works, almost kind of working backwards from that. So it actually was kind of an interesting thing, but it was talking about the idea of it was back to Penrose. It was who was the physicist, and he had some theories about consciousness that everybody kind of poo-pooed at the time, but a lot of it because a lot of it has to do with, and of course part of the problem too is we don't necessarily have a solid definition of consciousness, but. In any case, I remember I started to watch this the other morning, so I'll share that with you if you're we think we know. Okay, when it comes to finding truth, I guess the point of me even bringing that up is that we have taken a very narrow method of determining truth and deciding that that's the only way to determine truth, and everything else is unreliable and you can't trust it. Okay, so it's back to trust. So how do you learn to trust yourself? How do you learn to trust your body? How do you learn to trust what your senses are telling you? How are you learning to trust what nature tells you? How do you take this information in, and how do you learn to use it in a way? Because oftentimes it is telling you something, and it's probably, in a lot of cases, probably more accurate than what your brain is telling you. Well, we're going to call it your brain, but your mind, okay, with your rationality, your analysis. And if we couple this with the idea of understanding without having to evaluate, okay, without having to evaluate something, just simply letting an impression come in and rather dissecting it with the mind right away, just letting it sit there. Maybe making a note of it, consciously being aware of it, making a note of it, but not sitting there going, well, I wonder if it means this, and I wonder if it's that, and what is it mean this outcome? Getting away from outcomes. Okay, that's the other thing too, not being attached to outcomes. A lot of the time we are so outcome focused that, and we're so worried every minute that what the steps that I'm taking, are these the right steps? And so you paralyze yourself with indecision because you say, well, I have to take the steps that are going to achieve this outcome, rather than just saying, okay, this is what I'm trying to do. Let's just do the steps. And even if they turn out to be the wrong steps, then at least you can go, okay, well, those are not steps, I need to, but a lot of times, and that's the Saturnian thing as well, we feel we don't have time. We feel like, oh no, I don't have time. I have to figure this out like this second. And I've talked about that before. But really a lot of it's a matter of trust. And this is something for me as, a Taurian over the last 3 years that I've really had to learn. And I'm talking to you about it now, and I feel like I'm only really at this point starting to make a real breakthrough with it. It takes time, especially if you already have like a lot of Piscean energy in your chart, or have a strong Neptune influence, or if you have a strong water influence, you might be somebody who's not who maybe is going to be somebody who is going to not be so so worried about, the practicalities all the time. I mean, not that we should ignore the practicalities. You have to balance the two. But in order to manifest and bring things down to earth, we're often so concerned about looking at what the template is or what the other model is. And that's that's part of the challenge. We're being challenged to do something new and different. So yeah, like I said, when you have those moments when you say, oh, will I have this outcome, or will I be able to do this by this date, or will I be able to do that? It's like you almost have to trust that something's going to happen in the interim that's going to solve the problem. And that having that trust is the hard part. So a lot of times, yeah, you just kind of have to do that. And when you have that little inner voice that comes in and says, yeah, but what about this? What if this outcome occurs? What if that outcome occurs? And you just have to sort of let that voice, you have to learn, it's almost like having to detach from that voice. Trust comes from learning to detach from that voice. And it does take time, and it can be very frustrating because you may have your plan, and then you may go to bed at night and that little voice comes in and starts picking at you, and by the time you wake up, you're completely convinced that you're not going to be able to do the thing that you want to do. And this tends to be the pattern, but recognize that it's the nagging little voice. Now, the nagging little voice does have its place and its purpose, but it's not necessarily the person. It's a good person to have on your team, not the good person to have as the manager. Okay, I think let's just put it that way. That stupid voice, yes, I think everybody goes through that. Everybody has that stupid voice that that constantly just pick at you, and why you should be worried. And a lot of this is stuff, a lot of it's inherited too, especially if you come from a family that has had, a lot of hardships or, certain traumas. That can all be kind of inherited. And that's not to place blame on the family, but it's just, a lot of times it's just in you, and it's not even something that is an issue. You know what I mean? You just think this is just kind of how it is. I mean, it's not something that you think or maybe the better way to put it is, it's not something that you think can be different. But that's the thing. It's so, and being that we don't as a society, we're not particularly trusting as a society, it takes some time to learn. So it's a process you have to be patient with as well. So so let's see what our reading says for today. Yeah, this is almost it exactly, and it provides an interesting solution here. So okay, so our first card is Moment to Moment. This is the Two of Pentacles in here. Moment to moment. The idea of living in the present. Just worrying about now, what you're doing today, what you need to do this morning, what you need to do, what's on the table for today. And again, as far as where you're trying to get to, if you just stay in the moment and allow your own intuition to tell you where you're going to, because a lot of times you'll write these elaborate plans and things will come in to mess up your elaborate plan. That's almost the thing. What was it? The guru always said, you want to make God laugh, tell him your plans. It's just, the plans get messed up. All right. And so the inner feeling of which we're unaware. Yeah. And this is what I was talking about too. The experiencing card, the Three of Wands. We've got the Three of Wands energy here. This is showing a woman hugging a tree. But what I just said about the natural world, about what's around you, being quiet enough to let nature speak to you, to let the environment speak to you, to let your intuition, whether it be your guides, if you're religious, letting God speak to you, however you want to conceive of that, the more that little voice comes in and takes charge, the harder it is to really have an experience, because that voice separates you from that experience. So you may be having that experience, but it becomes unconscious. You become unaware of it. Now, the external feeling, which we're aware, we have the sharing card. This is the Queen of Wands. So the Queen of Wands is this very high energy. I mean, when you live in the moment and you have that, and you allow yourself to experience, then you kind of see the abundance that's there for you to share, but that others may also share with you. Sharing can go in both directions. Now, this is not the same as the Six of Pentacles energy, but the idea is this is a woman who has a lot of abundance and a lot of confidence and passion and can actually share it. Because Queen of Wands is a very ambitious kind of a card. And then it's a type of energy that some people like or don't like, but I've been seeing a whole lot of fire energy around. So it's almost like telling people, like, make the move, go for it. That's another aspect of trust, is being willing to take risks. Go for it, go for it, go for it. It's that kind of an energy. And you're kind of aware that energy is there. And you realize, you may be aware that there's something inside of you or around you that's telling you that. And then we have this is the Nine of Cups in this card, actually, the laziness card. And I know that just sounds like I always do, whenever you hear that, you're like, don't tell me I'm being lazy, because we're generally not being lazy. But the laziness here is not that, we're lazy and not doing our job, what we're supposed to do. What this is it can become a laziness where we want to fall back on the old pattern. Because it's comfortable, this guy's comfortable, but it's saying, as he's sitting here comfortably, you're seeing this breakdown behind him. And it's saying, you kind of got to get moving, not because, and you need to act on the information that you are experiencing, because we can fall back into comfortable ways of thinking because it's comfortable. It's the devil, right? It's the one that, and again, it may. I also am seeing a lot of Eight of Cups energy for people, and Eight of Cups is really about this. Okay, that worked well before, but it's time to walk away from it. Okay, it's the cups are full and upright, but the seeker has outgrown them. I think that's the way Arthur Edward Waite explained that. The devil I know sucks. I know, isn't it? I completely hear you. And yeah. But and it's hard. It's really hard to kind of detach from that energy, and we always feel like we need. A lot of times we feel like we respond to it with intellectual energy too. Like for me, like when I find that little voice is too loud, I listen to a lot of Alan Watts because he kind of reminds me of the things. But I'm also saying, like, okay, well, that's good, but that's kind of temporary. You also you need to be able to experience that inside yourself. So I say the best way to start is to just test yourself, and also to just jump in and do something. Even if to just really take an F it kind of an attitude. F it, I'm just doing it. I'm just doing it. I don't care what people think. I mean, there's a little defensiveness to that too, but you're defending yourself against that voice. But ultimately that voice is just going to be there. And what I'm finding over time is that voice recedes more and more into the background. Yeah, it's still there. And there may be times when I may have certain dreams that indicate that worry or whatever, but I don't know. I just find that over time, the more I confront it, the less force it has. And it's just something that takes time, and eventually that trust comes in. Our outcome card is celebration. It's a 3 of Cups. And if you look at this is a 3 women kind of dancing in the rain. My friend Ellen calls this like a Maenadic card, like the Maenads, the Dionysian Maenads. And these women who are just dancing in the rain, just enjoying, just having fun and enjoying life. But the celebration card is also about being with others, working with others. Sometimes, it's the idea that we work together. And that we celebrate what we're doing. Because when you make the decision to do this thing that you love, to be constantly overshadowed with, but this is not the old way, and but what if something goes wrong with the new way? I mean, this allows us to just say, celebrate where you are, celebrate what you're doing. Okay, so you don't have all the answers right now. So what? It's it reminds me when I was taking it was called yoga when I was in undergraduate. It was the gym class that I took, and his name was Rob. What was his name? He was like kind of almost a motivational speaker type, really, and he introduced me to a couple of good books like Norman Cousins' The Anatomy of an Illness. Was Norman Cousins? I think that's who it was. Yeah, Anatomy of an Illness, and there was a couple other ones. I think there was Chop Wood, Carry Water. There was a couple different ones that we had talked about, but he had a phone thing where you could call and get like a motivational message a day or something. It was kind of interesting. But he had taught my class at Montclair, and I remember him telling the story about a girl who was a brilliant violinist, and she had come from one of the Asian countries. I can't remember if it was Japan, if it was China, but she had come over to Juilliard, and she was going to be taking classes there. And, because she had everything. She had, like, the best grades. She was, like, the best player. Like, she had the best. They were like, oh my gosh, she's a superstar. There were so many expectations on her. She was an absolute superstar. And when she came, her whole first year, she failed all her classes. Her playing was not that good. I mean, it was like this group had spent all this money bringing her over because she was going to be this sensation. And she was, like, failing, like, letting everybody down. And it was, so she wasn't, she just couldn't, like 9 months went by like this where she just wasn't doing well. And finally her roommate apparently was studying meditation and had gotten a mantra and everything. And she was talking to her roommate, and her roommate said to her, because girl was talking about, she's like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm probably going to, I'm feeling all this is happening. I don't know how to get myself out of this. And so her roommate said to her, well, I went to this meditation thing and I got this mantra. He said, maybe you can use this mantra and maybe it'll help you. So she gave the mantra to the girl. This was not like a kind of mantra that a guru initiates you with. This was another type of mantra. And so the girl started using this mantra, and all of a sudden everything turned around. Her grades got really good. Her playing, she was everything and more that they expected. And her advisor said to her, well, what changed? Like, do you mind telling us what changed? And so she said, she explained, I had this, friend, roommate, I had this mantra, and I use this mantra every day, and that seemed to really help. And they said, well, do you mind if I ask what the mantra is? And she said, yeah, it's, I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn. F it. I don't care. I don't give a damn. I'm just going to be me. I don't give a damn. And that's Queen of Wands energy, right? I don't give a damn. Oh, what's this one going to think? What's that one going to think? Oh, is this going to be that? Who cares? You just, because the thing is because that's kind of the ultimate act of trust. It's just saying, screw it. I'm just going to jump. And that's what we have a hard time doing. That's what we have a really hard time doing. And the thing is, with the celebration card, I think it's just also reminding us that field theory, we're not by ourselves. We don't have to carry this burden entirely by ourselves. We are part of a network. People will help us, and we should go to the people that will help us. A lot of times when we are in a situation where we feel we can't do it on our own, there are other people around us who are like, oh, well, I can help you with this. the person who will, who respects your work and will get you the job that you want, or get you something, or help you get into a space that you really want to get into, or the person who will partner with you on something that you're trying to do, or, oh, we're both trying to do the same thing, let's try to do it together. Like, there's different ways that you can do this. Everybody doesn't have to just kind of be individual and on their own, and you're not. I think it's also a reminder here that you're not alone, and that the present is the only moment that exists. So, our card for today, this is interesting. Okay, I pulled a essential oil oracle, and we have ginger oil today. And our word is will. Our will. Remember, I was just saying, like, just go for it, just do it. What's your will? The trigger statement is, I am a victim. The true statement is, I am powerful beyond measure. And it says, you are strong and capable. With gratitude, optimism, and action, manifest the life that you desire. Literally what I just said. And it just flipped out of the deck. There's synchronicity in action for you. And there's sometimes is your validation too. Like, you're thinking something, and the fact that it will come up that way will just kind of be like, yeah, go for it. You can totally do it. So I guess that's the message of today. The message around trust, and the message around kind of being in the present and not being attached to outcomes is, screw it, go for it. That's kind of the thing. Go for it. You are capable. And the thing that's holding you back is that little voice telling you that you're not capable. But you are. You are. And so you want to think about all the gifts that you have. And if you have a hard time making that list, ask other people. I feel inspired by your reading today. That's good. That's good. I already know your work. You do a lot of good work. Definitely. So I think you definitely have a lot you definitely have a lot going for you, a lot of resources going for you as well. Actually, both of you who are on today know you both have a lot of resources, and you're both really, intelligent, well-placed, well-balanced people who have a lot of skills. So, you definitely both have that energy. And then probably anybody else who's watching too. There's always something. And like I said, if you don't see it, talk with other people who are your friends, because other people will tell you, oh, but you have this, and you have this, and you don't think about it because you still have that little voice going, oh yeah, well, we all do it to ourselves. I'm going to be on this podcast tonight, and Jim had posted my kind of a mini CV of mine, and she's a creator of Katonia. She does this. She's got these degrees. She's got that. She's got this practice. She's learned that practice, and it doesn't even include the fact that I've written 5 books and I've done this and I've done that. And I'm like, and it's funny how I sit there and go, yeah, well, I haven't really done anything. Like, we all just kind of like, crap on our own achievements, but first of all, be proud of what you've achieved, and secondly, you have what it takes to go for it. Thank you, I needed that. Love your morning coffee. Oh, you're welcome, Leela. I hope that this is kind of a pep talk for everybody, myself included. So that hopefully this is going to be something that helps you throughout your day. So anyway, we're at 1:15, so I will be here tomorrow, not Saturday, and like I said, I will be on the live stream on the Inside the Sacred Circle with Joanne and Jim tonight, and if there's a recording available, I will post that too, because it's on Facebook, and if you're not on Facebook, I'm not sure if you can join it. So, and then the other is going to be, and also my dream analysis class. I'm just going to mention that again, which is on transitionlifecoaching.net. If you go to the events, you'll see it. So, you're welcome, Melissa, and everybody. Have a great day. Anybody watching this later, I hope you have a great day. Hope this is helpful to you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Take care.